OBS is a piece of shit. Like, are you fuck? God damn it. I don't know what is up with fucking OBS, but it is seriously pissing me off because it keeps dropping frames. But anywho, we're live, ladies and germs. I wanted to do this review last night, but of course NASCAR decided to take their sweet ass fucking time getting tech inspection done. So basically had to wait until tonight in order to do this review. So there you go. But there's a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack from this review. So let's get into it. This is the fuel. I need a new fucking microphone. This thing's a piece of shit. Oh well, whatever. It is what it is. But anywho, welcome to tonight's edition of The Fuel, where we're going to be talking about the 2022 Daytona 500, as well as a lot of other shit. Where do we even begin? So, the Daytona 500, Super Bowl stock car racing. For once, it was actually a pretty good race overall. Of course, it had some points that were absolute shit-tastic, and we'll get to those. But for the most part, the new car's debut in a points race actually went pretty well. Although there are some things that I noticed during this race that definitely were some calls for I think it has some calls for concern. I think it's pretty obvious that this new car is going to have some teething issues. Like, there's going to be some, problems crop up. It always happens with a new car. And there were several during this race that I noticed that probably are going to need to be looked at, to say the least. Might need to take a trip to the R&D department. to try to figure some of this shit out. But the first thing I want to say right off the bat, Fox's coverage of NASCAR as in the last couple of years just fucking sucks. It really does. The broadcasting group was just fine, and Tony Stewart certainly added a different flavor to the broadcast. But I tell you what, man, from some of the camera angles that were used to the fact that they went, full screen commercials a lot of times. I mean, someone did a count, and apparently there were like 22 commercial breaks during the race. That averages out to about 9 laps per commercial break. And a lot of these were full screen commercial breaks. Instead of doing the side by side like they did at certain points during this race, they in some cases went full screen for the commercial breaks. And and I can count on a couple of different occasions. They went to a commercial break and then they came back and everybody was under caution, and then we're scrambling to figure out what the fuck happened. So that's pretty fucking annoying. But what else do you expect? It's fucking Fox. It's so goddamn frustrating because I can recall back when Fox first started featuring NASCAR on its channel all the way back in 2001. And from that point forward, I always looked forward to the Fox broadcasts because I thought they were extremely well done. The broadcast team of Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds, and Darrell Waltrip, that was one hell of a combination. What? What do you want? Meow. I'm trying to do something here, cat. No. This cat. No. 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 Butthead. Come on, go lay down. Come on. Trying to do a review here. Yeah, like I was saying, I used to look forward to the Fox broadcasts, but nowadays, especially compared to NBC, their coverage fucking sucks. And apparently, ESPN is looking to get back into the NASCAR game. Lest we forget the last time they had broadcasting rights, they were ass. So, I don't know. They really need to iron out some issues in the broadcast booth because in the production truck, because it's just so frustrating. The guys in the booth, they're doing a hell of a job. You have Mike Joy and Clint Boyer. They're going to be the regulars, and then I guess they're going to switch off and on between other special guests to come in and do broadcasting for them. Tony Stewart, I thought, was pretty cool. But yeah, other than that, the broadcasting just fucking sucks. The camera angles sometimes are horrible. They go to commercial breaks way too many fucking times. It's just frustrating. And it's not the Fox Sports that I grew up loving. I'll put it to you that way. But, that aside, the Daytona 500 itself was alright. It was a hell of a lot better than the race we saw last year, I'll tell you that much. Because last year's race was ass. what the cats are doing over there. They're doing some stupid shit. But, you know, what else is new? But, getting to what I was talking about earlier with the new car and some of the concerns that I had with it. There's a couple of primary concerns that I saw. One, there was a blowover at the end of stage 1. Freaking cat. There was a blowover at the end of stage 1. And we got a good look at the underside of the car, and it was basically all flat, which, I mean, if a car gets airborne, it's going airborne. If it even catches just the slightest bit of air, it's going over. So that was a bit of a concern. I mean, the air flaps deployed, and apparently they got a rear diffuser now on the car, which is supposed to help keep the cars on the ground. But I mean, I think that one was attributed to the fact that Harrison Burton got hit in the door. He was the one who went over. But that is still a little bit of a concern, that they still went over, that car went over so easily, despite the fact that it wasn't going sideways at a rapid rate. I mean, but it is a little bit of a concern. Another thing that I noticed was the fact that the suspension on these cars seems really fragile. I mean, even just a slight bump with another car, you know, because we saw that with Denny Hamlin in the middle of that wreck. It just seemed like, you know, I don't know. It just seems like the suspension on these cars are really fragile. I mean, I don't know if that has to do with part shortage, and they're trying to get these parts out as fast as possible, and some of these parts are not passing quality control, or somehow getting past quality control, and they're not, you know, they're not up to snuff. I mean, I don't know what it is, but it seems like the suspension on these cars is a little bit fragile. So that's another thing that I saw. But probably the biggest thing is if these cars spin out, the tires are going to go flat because they get flat spotted. But one thing I noticed about these cars is that when these tires go flat, they're basically stuck on the ground, like they're scraping the ground. They're beached. That shouldn't be happening. And not only that, it looked like they were just running, you know, regular tires, the regular racing tires. I thought on super speedways they used interliners. I mean, is there something wrong with the new wheel that kind of prevents them from using interliners? I don't really know, but that was another thing that I saw, that as soon as tires went flat, I mean, drivers were having a difficult time getting their cars going again. So, I mean, honestly, it kind of feels like these cars are like Indy cars with stock car bodies. I mean, that's what it feels like. I mean, the racing was fine, though, don't get me wrong. And I like the cars' look, but it's just, there's some things, you know, inside the package, you know, like certain parts of the car, you know, maybe we should take a look at it and see if we can't boost their durability a little bit, you know, get some better parts in there, because it just seemed like things were breaking way too easily. Another thing that I saw, apparently they were having some issues with the new wheels themselves, the one lug. There was some instances on a couple of different cars, a couple of different teams, where the pins on the inside of the wheel aren't, what's the word for it, aren't activating, so to speak, when the screw is tightened. And we saw a couple of instances where you had, I think the 50 car lost a wheel. Then another car didn't necessarily lose the wheel, they lost the tread off the wheel. The wheel was still attached to the car, they just lost the tread. But yeah, but I mean, it's it really isn't that much of a surprise, though. I mean, these wheels are aluminum as opposed to steel, so any kind of damage to the wheel, I mean, if you're involved in a wreck and you hit the wall or something, chances are the wheel's going to be damaged. So, I'm starting to wonder if maybe switching from steel wheels to aluminum wheels was a good idea. I don't know. But that's just some of the concerns that I had from the Daytona 500. Some of the things that I saw with the new car. But before we get into tonight's review, let's go ahead and dive into some news of the week. Alright, so a couple of headlines this week, not that many, especially compared to the past couple weeks, the past couple episodes. First headline of the week, Bushlight Clash viewership. Remember a couple weeks ago we had the Bushlight Clash at the LA Memorial Coliseum, and evidently it worked because not only did they have quite the crowd that showed up to watch it live, TV viewership was up big time. Bushlight Clash viewership up 168% from 2021. That's quite the jump. Let me see if I still have it. Yep, here we go. Alright, it earned a 2.32 rating and 4.283 million viewers for an exhibition race. Best for the event since 2016 when it was called the Sprint Unlimited. Up 168% in viewership from last year. I mean, if that doesn't tell you how much of a success this little endeavor was for NASCAR, then I really don't know what else to tell you. I mean, this event did exactly what it was designed to do. They wanted to take it to a stadium. They wanted to change things up, freshen it up a little bit, take it to a new market, see what happens, and you see the results. The atmosphere was absolutely unbelievable. You had racing on a quarter-mile bull ring, which in today's day and age in NASCAR is kind of unheard of, at least for the top-tier series, but they proved that it could work. And the viewership, I think, proves it as well. The racing was pretty solid. Wasn't the best in the world, but it was still pretty solid for an exhibition race. And a lot of people were definitely interested in watching it. So over 4 million people. That's a lot of fucking people. And it's a massive increase over what they had from last year. So kudos to NASCAR on that. They decided to take a chance, and it looks like it paid off in spades. Next up, this was something that happened during this week, during practice. NASCAR confiscated racing wheels from Team Penske and Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. So, let me see if I can find this here. See if I can. NASCAR confiscates wheels. I know there's. Alright, let's go to NASCAR.com and see what's on here. Of course, I was talking about the wheels earlier. So, this was posted on NASCAR.com 2 days before the 500. NASCAR announced Friday that competition officials confiscated the wheels used by Team Penske and Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing at Daytona International Speedway. Officials indicated that the confiscated parts will be brought to the NASCAR Research and Development Center for further inspection. Any potential penalties will be determined at a later date after the inspection. Did they say why they... Does it say why they... No, it doesn't. And it says NASCAR did not add any details to what they may have seen or what they're looking for. Of course, you know, the big thing here is that they introduced a new penalty structure. You know, spec parts. You can't be tampering with spec parts. So let's see what Penske says. Let's see what this is. Okay, Penske addresses NASCAR's confiscation of wheels. Daytona 500 winning team owner Roger Penske addressed the wheels that were confiscated by NASCAR officials after last Thursday night's Blue-Green Vacations dual qualifying races. And they also confiscated the wheels of RFK Racing. With the new 18-inch wheels that use just one wheel nut, Team Penske cleaned out the inside of the wheels. It's common practice on Team Penske's IndyCar and IMSA teams. NASCAR, however, remained steadfast to the rule that no modifications can be done to the wheels and believed it was more than simply cleaning the wheels. So Penske discussed the issue. I think that anybody who was at the race today, you talked to most of the teams, they all had trouble with wheels, didn't they? It wasn't something that was unique. We had contacted NASCAR a week before and said that the wheels we were getting were not all the same, and we felt we needed to modify the holes where the drive pins go. We didn't really get any feedback, and at that point we went ahead and opened the holes up. In fact, when you look at it, they're much bigger than they would have been, smaller, than we had either on IndyCar or on sports cars. I just think there was so much going on trying to get the communication back and forth. We certainly talked about it with them. This wasn't something we did under the covers trying to beat anybody. It was right there. They took all our wheels, and we ran today with wheels that we had up at the shop. Came down. They were certainly like everybody else's, I think. Len Wood of the Wood Brothers then told Speed Sport before Sunday's Daytona 500 that there is a clearance issue with the wheels, and the wheels expand from the heat and friction on the track. Wood believes it will be more of an issue on tracks where brakes are used extensively, such as Martinsville Speedway and other short tracks and road courses on the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. That's probably, again, an issue because I'd say that's going to be a bigger issue at those tracks because, again, they're using aluminum wheels now instead of the usual steel wheels. So it seems like the drive pins for the wheels aren't engaging, so to speak. And it seems like Penske has brought this up with NASCAR, but it seems like NASCAR has been pretty tight-lipped about it, which I think is pretty fucking stupid. I mean, these are new wheels, and we saw it during the race. We saw quite a few teams have trouble with wheels. So, let's get together. Let's have a discussion. Let's try to figure this fucking problem out. I don't know. Cole, can you please go lay down? Not on my notes. You cat. You are such a cat. Anyways. But if there are any penalties that come from this, we'll probably expect them tomorrow or something like that. And if that's the case, then I'll report on them during the Auto Club review. But last headline before we get to the review itself. Chase Elliott, before the Daytona 500, one day before the Daytona 500 as a matter of fact, has signed a new contract with Hendrick Motorsports, and he is going to be a Hendrick guy until at least 2027. Yep, he signed a 5-year contract extension. That's a big deal. Of course, I don't think Hendrick is very keen on letting the most popular driver in the sport right now. He's not willing to let him go anywhere else right now, and I don't blame him. Won the championship back in 2020. Even though he only won twice last year, he still made the championship four, was second a lot of times. And, he's been pretty consistent, So, that's what I say to that. So, Chase Elliott, he's going to be the guy that's going to be driving that 9 car for a number of years to come. So, good for him. So, his future is secure for quite some time. But that was all the headlines for the week. Not really a whole lot to talk about this week. So without further ado, let's get to the review itself. And today's episode of The Fuel, Karma is a Bitch, Kez Edition. Because, I mean, it's got to really burn Brad Keselowski's ass. The fact that, I mean, he was really uber aggressive in the 500 last night, where he caused he basically caused not one but two accidents. And then the car that he used to drive ends up in victory lane in the Daytona 500, basically right after he leaves it. If that's not karma, I don't know what is. But let's go ahead and get into this review. Actually, one second. See if anybody from Spare Parts wants to hop on board this train. Nope, doesn't look like it. Does not look like it. I'll have co-coms on this show one day. Anyway, whatever. It is what it is. Jump, sissy. Jump, mama, sissy. I need my notes. No. Come on, sissy. Watch out. I'm trying to do a review here. Come on. Go. Alright, so 2022 Daytona 500. Let's get into it. Stage 1 was 65 laps. There were 4 drivers that had to go to the rear of the field. Joey Logano, who had to go to a backup car. Jacques Villeneuve, who had to change an engine. Daniel Hemrick, who had 3 pre-tech inspection failures. And because of that, he also had to do a pass-through penalty. And Chase Briscoe, because his team failed tech inspection twice. So, Kyle Larson won the pole, so that's where he'll start. Larson drops down in front of Bowman at the start, so the Hendrick guys on the bottom, 1-2. Keselowski with a run around the outside to lead lap 1. And the train was already forming on lap 3. Yay. I thought, man, we're going to be in for something similar to last year, aren't we? Not necessarily the case here. Kyle Busch drops to the bottom and brings some of his friends with him on lap 7, and he gets our first pure lead change on lap 7. Keselowski takes it back, though, for a second pure lead change on lap 8. They were kind of going back and forth. JGR car still trying to push through on the bottom, but the train is forming on the outside once again. But they start getting that line back going again. It takes them a little while, because our third pure lead change doesn't come until lap 27. So nearly 20 laps later, Kyle Busch retakes the lead. The inside is finally matching the outside line, so they're 2x2. And they're going back and forth for the lead at this point. Keselowski takes the lead back on lap 32, but then Kyle Busch takes it back once again. So we're up to 5 pure lead changes at this point. The Toyota is now overhauling the Fords on the inside. Then Christopher Bell has a hood flap issue. One of his hood flaps comes loose and it starts flapping around. Of course, it's attached with hood tethers. The Toyota is now overhauling the Fords on the inside. I already said that. Green flag pit stops begin en masse on lap 38. It was basically manufacturer partnerships. The Toyotas come in on the next lap. Third group of cars led by Stenhouse come in on the next lap. Ty Dillon gets nabbed for speeding. Joey Logano cycles back with the lead, but then Kyle Busch retakes the lead on lap 41 for a 6th pure lead change of the day. We get our first caution on lap 42 when Chase Briscoe gets loose and spins in turn 1, while Kaz Grala loses a right rear tire. And from what I heard, there's going to be some pretty big penalties coming for that 50 team because of the fact that these wheels are now held by just a single wheel nut. If they come off, yeah, it's no es bueno. So Kyle Busch leads on the restart. Logano tries to battle Busch for the lead on the outside. Contact between Larson and Blaney on the front stretch. Then we get our second caution on lap 51 when Justin Haley loses the tread on his right front tire. So this was a different scenario to what happened with the 50 car. 50 car lost the wheel and the tire. It was gone. But Justin Haley, on the other hand, lost the tread off of the tire. It seemed like the wheel was damaged at some point, which caused the tread of the tire to basically come off. So a very different scenario to what happened with the 50 car. So Kyle Busch leads on the restart. Blaney with perhaps a wheel nut issue. They were having some difficulties with one of the wheels. Byron powers around the outside and into the lead for our 7th pure lead change on lap 58. Harrison Burton gets a push from Truex to challenge for the lead and takes it on lap 59. Truex dives to the inside to challenge Harrison for the lead and takes it for our 9th pure lead change on lap 61. Then we have our 3rd caution on lap 62, and this is our first instance of Keselowski being a little too aggressive, I feel. Kez gets into Burton off of turn 2, and it sends the 21 into Byron, who was on his inside, who hits the inside wall hard. I mean, it was a hard hit. Collects Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Bell, Chastain, and Alex Bowman. The 21 goes over once, but then flips back over onto its wheels. Thankfully, everybody who was involved was okay, and some were able to drive away. In particular, Kyle Busch got really lucky on that one. And the stage ends under yellow, so Truex wins stage 1. Both Busch brothers were on pit road for repairs, so they had to start from the rear of the field because pit road was not open. Everyone comes in for service, and Eric Jones wins the race off pit road. There were a lot of varying strategies during this race. Fuel only, 2 tires, 4 tires. But with the tire issues, a lot of people were like, well, if we don't have to take tires, then let's not take tires. And it also seemed like that the tires weren't really doing a whole lot of good as far as, grip level or anything of that nature. So basically, fuel only and 2 tires were basically the way to go in this race, it felt like. So now we come to stage number 2, which was also 65 laps. Cat, move your tail out of the camera. I'm just going to be completely blunt here. Stage 2 was fucking garbage. Like, it really was. It went caution free, but good fucking grief. This stage was boring as fuck. Because they basically got into the choo-choo train and basically stayed that way for a large majority of the stage. I mean, you could have walked away from the TV and not missed a fucking thing. This stage was trash. So Eric Jones leads the start of stage 2. Blaney gets pushed out to the lead on the restart by teammate Austin Cindric. The top 8 are in a choo-choo train. Woohoo! Lap 86, the whole thing is a train now. Choo-choo! And I was just like, fuck this. I mean, I had a hard time staying awake during this stretch of the race. Finally, we have green flag pit stops on lap 103. That just shows you how fucking boring this stage was. We're already into pit stops. About half the field comes in for service under green on lap 109. Truex leads the next group on the next lap. Suarez gets nabbed for speeding. The RFK cars to the front after pit stops. Cat, get out of the way. The outside line finally starts to make some headway with 7 to go in stage 2. And things finally start to pick up near the end of the stage. About fucking time. Larson comes up to challenge for the lead and takes it for a 10th pure lead change on lap 125. Keselowski dives to the inside in turn 1 to retake the lead for our 11th pure lead change on lap 126. Then Logano, who's chasing the 14, of Chase Briscoe, is trying to stay on the lead lap, uses the 14 to get by Keselowski for the lead, but then Truex snookers them at the line to win stage number 2 and get our 12th pure lead change on lap 130. Alright, Cat, you gotta move. Come on. Freaking cats, man. So everyone comes in for service and Keselowski wins the race off of pit road. So now we come to stage number 3, which was 70 laps. Cat, go lay down. For fuck's sake. So Keselowski leads the start of stage 3. The inside line begins to move, and another choo-choo train forms. But then we get our 4th caution on lap 152 when Reddick spins on the front stretch off of turn 4. Apparently something broke on the car. And unfortunately, this is the accident where Truex got involved in. Logano and Kurt Busch were also involved, as well as Jacques Villeneuve. So this caution actually happened right at the edge of the fuel window. So fuel was definitely an issue at this point. Everyone comes in for service with 44 laps to go, and Cindric leads on the restart. That's Austin Cindric, who's now driving the 2 car. Kyle Busch tries to push, and Bubba Wallace tries to push Bubba Wallace towards the front on the outside. And this is the point where we kind of got a thing we saw last year in the 400, where we had 2 guys basically going back and forth for the race lead at the front. In this case, it was Bubba Wallace and Austin Cindric. They traded the lead 5 times during this point in the race. So Wallace took it on lap 163. Cindric took it back on lap 167. It was 2 by 2 by 2 up front. I was like, okay, here we go. Now we're getting into the good shit. Wallace took it back on lap 169, and Cindric took it back on lap 171. So we're up to 16 pure lead changes at this point. The inside finally prevails with the Penske cars. Kyle Busch then gets a broken hood flap. I mean, he has damage on the fucking right front, broken hood flap, but was still pushing the 23 back around and up to the 2 and into the race lead on lap 176. And then Ricky Stenhouse makes his presence known in the lead draft and takes the lead on lap 178. Stenhouse now leading the outside line. Bubba Wallace takes the lead once again on lap 179 for a 19th pure lead change, and then Ricky Stenhouse takes it back once again on lap 180. Back markers were really causing some issues for the leaders at this point. They were kind of having to weave back and forth to get around them. And then all of a sudden the choo-choo train reforms with 18 laps to go, and I'm just sitting there like, are you fucking kidding me? Thankfully, the Penske cars make the first move, and Harvick drops down in front of him and breaks that shit up. And oh yeah, Phil Miles was still an issue at this point. Cindric makes the move, Stenhouse blocks. But then we get our 5th caution on lap 190 when we have a big wreck on the front stretch as Harvick was slowing up, and Larson had a big run on him. And couldn't get slowed down in time and just runs right into the 4, and it causes the wreck. Noah Gragson, Todd Gilliland, Chase Elliott, and Eric Jones were also involved in this accident. And they decided to red flag the race to get the mess cleaned up. So Stenhouse leads on the restart with 6 laps to go. We had double tandems at the front, and then we get our 6th and final caution on lap 196. Guess who strikes again? Brad Keselowski. Basically gets dumped off of turn 4. I think Kez was trying to do a bump draft with them, but these bumpers on these new cars don't really line up all that well. And Stenhouse basically gets turned off of Keselowski's bumper in turn 4. Bubba Wallace and Chris Buescher are also involved. Wallace actually basically loses the entire right front off of his car, or a huge chunk of it. So considering that he still was a contender for the win was very surprising. But there was also an in-car shot of Stenhouse's crash, and this brings up another bit of concern. When he hit the wall, his head snapped forward really quickly, and it looked like his helmet actually hit the steering wheel. So I was kind of like, where's the fucking Hans device in that instance? You know, I guarantee, I mean, I'm pretty sure he was wearing one because it's mandatory to wear one, but it's like, should his head have snapped forward that quickly, despite the fact that he was wearing a Hans device? I guarantee you, if this was back in the 1990s when they didn't have the Hans device, I mean, that could have been a lot worse. So, but he was able to climb out under his own power. Probably a little pissed off because he was leading the Daytona 500 and got crashed. But, you know, what else is new in this race? But we're going to overtime, which always seems to be a theme in these super speedway races. So there was a graphic fail by Fox. This is just another example of just how fucking shitty Fox is. They put up the graphic for the rules for the green, white, checker, and it says 2-lap shoot. You know, Mike Joyce trying to explain the rules and stuff, and the first line, it's supposed to say 2-lap shootout, and instead it just says 2-lap shoot. Oh, Lord have mercy. Yeah, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if someone got fired over that one. Because, Jesus Christ. Anyways, green-white checkered. So, Cindric leads the first green-white checkered. And he figured that his teammate Ryan Blaney, who was up front as well, would let him in on the restart. And sure enough, he did. And it was looking like, as they're coming to the white flag, Brad Keselowski was trying to get a run around the outside, but it seemed like he couldn't overhaul the two Penske cars. And then we come to the front stretch, and this is when it was balls to the wall. You didn't know what the fuck was going to happen. But Chase Briscoe and Kyle Busch, they basically go wall riding around the outside, and they were actually scraping the wall at one point. And it was at that point that Blaney decided to try to go to the outside around Cindric. Cindric kind of nudges him in the left front fender, and it kind of puts Blaney into the wall. But then Bubba Wallace, with his damaged right front, comes in, has a huge run. Austin tries to throw the block and actually makes contact with Bubba's right front, and it's a photo finish. Margin of victory was 36 1/1000ths of a second, and Austin Cindric wins the Daytona 500 just barely, and becomes NASCAR's 200th different Cup Series winner. Yep, he is the 200th. There was a little bit of controversy on social media afterwards, though, because after looking at the replay, there were some people that felt like maybe Cindric forced Bubba Wallace below the yellow line. Let me see if I can find something like that. Find footage of it. Because I know they probably got it on here somewhere. Give me a second. All right, 1 second. Let me. I'm going to try to find. Footage of it. Daytona 500 finish. Because I want to actually show you what happened. And kind of give you my point of view on whether or not Austin Cindric actually forced Bubba below the yellow line. Hold on 1 second. I got the aerial shot. That's great. All right, you know what I'm going to do actually, I'm going to take you through this final lap. All right. All right, so display capture 1. Transform. Stretch the screen. Boom. There we go. All right, so I'm going to take this full. All right, so let's go through this together. All right. White flag. Cindric's leading. Blaney's on his inside. Keselowski trying to get a push from Chase Briscoe and Kyle Busch. And, man, that was a bump draft, to say the least. And you see Bubba on the bottom trying to stay coupled with the Penske cars. So, obviously, Keselowski's trying to get the run around the high side. Can't seem to get there. And it's looking like the Penske cars... I mean, it's looking like Kez actually has a chance here. But then the Penske guys get a good run into turns 3 and 4. And all of a sudden, Keselowski's help evaporates. And then here's what happens off of turn 4. Briscoe goes to Keselowski's outside, puts him in the middle. They go wall riding. Blaney makes the move. Cindric goes and puts Blaney in the wall, and there's the contact right there. And of course, there's a big crash after the race is over. McDowell got in it hard, and the 15 car as well of David Reagan. Rick Ware car, who actually finished 8th. But yeah, let's rewind that. You see Chase Briscoe going around the outside right there. That's insane. Both him and Kyle Busch were wall riding. There's the contact between the two Penske guys, and here's where Bubba Wallace tries to make his move. No, that's not what I wanted. So let's slow this down. They're coming to the checkered. They're in the tri-oval. Now watch Austin Cindric right here. He notices that the 23 is coming in his inside and moves down to block. And you can see just the tiniest little bit of smoke. There was a little bit of contact. There wasn't a lot, but there was contact between the two of them. And what happens is this pushes the 23 below the double yellow line, coming to the checkered flag. And in the meantime, Blaney's trying to hang on and finally loses it. And then Keselowski comes down and clips the 34, so that's how the 34 got turned into the 15. So there was a lot of people that were saying that Austin Cindric had forced Bubba Wallace below the yellow line, coming to the checkered, and since it is illegal to force someone below the yellow line, and there is precedent from that one Talladega race where I completely lost my shit. A lot of people are saying, should Austin Cindric have been penalized for that? In my personal opinion, and trust me, I have no dog in this fight. I don't care who wins, as long as we see a good race, and this was a damn good finish. It's my honest opinion that I think NASCAR made the right call in not calling this, because, I mean, let's be honest here. Cindric was trying to do everything that he could, to protect his position. And yes, was there some contact between him and Bubba Wallace? Yes, but it was incidental contact, as my freaking microphone falls off again, or my thingamajig falls off again. I don't know where it disappeared to. God damn it. Son of a bitch. Where did it go? Oh. It was all the way over here. I need to put some tape on this or something. Or maybe some Gorilla Glue. I don't know. But anyways, like I was saying, I don't think there was really anything there. I mean, there was contact between Cindric and Wallace, but I mean, I think it was incidental contact because Cindric was trying to protect his position, and it was in the middle of the track. Now, if Cindric would have laid on Wallace's right side and forced him below that way, then yeah, I could see that being a case of forcing someone below the yellow line. But in this case, where it was minor contact and it sent Bubba down 2 wheels below the yellow line, I mean, I don't think you can make that call in that position. I mean, these guys are racing off of turn 4 in the Daytona 500. You know, it's physical. I mean, they're going to do everything in their power to try to protect their position. And let's be honest here. You come off the final turn on the final lap at the Daytona 500, all bets are off. And, you know, there was also some people that were like, man, Cindric really put Blaney up into the wall right there to try to win this race. Yeah, and Blaney would do the same thing. In fact, he has done the same thing. I mean, if you recall back to the 2020 Geico 500 at Talladega, coming to the line, the 20 car, which I believe was, I think Eric, was it Eric Jones or was it? I think it was Eric Jones that was still driving the 20 car at the time. Yeah, because I think Christopher Bell didn't get into the 20 car until last year. So I think Eric Jones was still driving the 20 car at the time. He had a run up on the outside of Blaney through the tri-oval at Talladega, and Blaney kind of came up and kind of doored him into the wall, and that resulted in the big old fracas at the line where he had a photo finish and cars wrecking and everywhere and all that shit. So Blaney has done the same thing himself. So, and if he would have, I mean, put himself into Cindric's position, there's no question Blaney would have done the same thing. And it's for the Daytona 500. I mean, this is not a case where, you know, Cindric, you know, spun somebody to try to win the 500 like Austin Dillon did. No, he was trying to protect his position. That was all that was. Now, I'm pretty sure he didn't mean to eventually cause the 12 car to wreck, but, you know, he was just trying to protect his position. And as far as the Bubba Wallace deal goes, I mean, again, he's just protecting his position. And it was incidental contact that forced the 23 below the double yellow line, at least partial way. But I mean, if Cindric would have laid on Bubba's right side and forced him below the yellow line, then yeah, I could see where you could make a case for that. But in this case, I mean, these guys are just, you know, going balls to the wall, no holds barred, you know, going for the checkered flag in the Daytona 500. I mean, all bets are off once you're off of turn 4. And that's just how I feel about that. So I don't think Cindric did anything wrong in this case. Now, I know Cindric has a bit of a reputation as someone who, you know, a lot of people don't like because they felt like, you know, he's a silver spoon kind of guy. You know, his father is the team president of Penske, Tim Cindric, who of course used to be the strategist for Will Power in the IndyCar series. So a lot of people felt like, well, Cindric only got his ride because his dad works at Penske. Yeah, so? I mean, it's one thing, you know, it would have been one thing if Cindric would have just been a pay driver or something like that and just putzed around, you know, and did nothing. Cindric won the 2020 championship, Xfinity Series championship, and was an ass hair away from going back-to-back. And now he wins the Daytona 500 in his first attempt. I mean, that's got to count for something. And I got to tell you, that's really got to burn a lot of the veterans' asses, you know, who's been trying to win this race for years. I know Truex and Kyle Busch, they've been 17 and 18 years respectively. Keselowski's been trying, I think, for like 13 years or something like that. There were a couple of drivers that are into the double digits as far as attempts to win the Daytona 500. Fucking Austin Cindric comes in, first race in the 2 car. I think this is his first Daytona 500 as well. Only his 8th career start in the Cup Series. Boom, Daytona 500 champion. That is really going to burn a lot of those veterans' asses because this new kid on the block just comes in and does something that they've been trying to do for years. I can't imagine how fucking frustrated some of those veterans must be. But, I mean, that's just the nature of super speedway racing. I mean, you never know who's going to be a contender in these races. And, I mean, Austin Cindric, he got the job done. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Now, the real test is going to be how good is he on the other types of tracks in the Cup Series, because he's good in the Xfinity Series, that's for damn sure. But let's see how he can run with the boys in the Cup Series. I mean, I think he's going to be pretty damn good on the road courses, because, I mean, he's a damn road course ace. But as far as the short tracks, the intermediates, we'll have to wait and see. And the other super speedways that are not the restrictor plate type tracks, we'll have to wait and see what he's able to do. Because, I mean, he is still a rookie. Let's not forget that. He is a Rookie of the Year contender this year. You know, he's racing Harrison Burton, I think, for that one. So, for Rookie of the Year honors this year. I think it's going to be between those two. So, we're going to have to wait and see how good Austin Cindric is in the Cup Series. But, I mean, he's off to a good start. And he's now forever a Daytona 500 champion. That can never be taken away from him. So, there you go. But with that out of the way, let's go into the stats and awards for the Daytona 500. So, total laps. It was a 200-lap race, of course. The stages broke down 65, 65, and 70 for the stages. Quite the increase in lead changes this year compared to last year. There were 35 overall lead changes in this year's edition of the Daytona 500. There were only 22 last year. There were 20 pure lead changes, nearly equaling the total number of overall lead changes from the Daytona 500 last year. So, pretty good, pretty solid in that regard. 6 caution flags, which is pretty par for the course. But here's what I think is the telling stat. Let me bring up Racing Reference real quick, because I'm going to take a look back at the 2021 Daytona 500. Kind of give you an idea on, you know, the difference between last year and this year. The green flag passes, total green flag passes for the race. In last year's Daytona 500, there were 2,755 green flag passes, which averages out to 17.2 per green flag lap. Guess how many green flag passes were in this race? 6,462, which averages out to 39.4 per green flag lap. Almost 3 times what we saw last year. Yeah, I would say this race was a lot better, and the statistics back that up. Lap Leader Award. Driver who led the most laps during the race was Brad Keselowski, who led 67 of the race's 200 laps. Now we get to a couple of awards that I brought back for this year. Star of the Race and Reject of the Race. First up, the Star of the Race. This award basically goes to the driver that impressed me the most during the race. I typically try to give this to someone that's not necessarily the obvious choice, like the winner of the race. I mean, I could have given it to Austin Cindric, but that would have been too easy. I only give it to the winner of the race if there's no other like really good options. But there was a really good option here, and the fact that he was able to come back and be a contender right at the end of the race, no less, is pretty impressive. Star of the race is Chase Briscoe. I mean, he went a lap down, almost went a lap down actually, early in the race after being caught up in the first caution. And for him to be able to come back, do some wall riding with Kyle Busch on the last lap, and be right there, right on the tail of both Cindric and Wallace for the race win, is pretty damn impressive. And let's not forget the fact that he finished third, and it's his best career finish. I mean, yeah, Chase Briscoe is the star of the race, for sure, for his performance. Reject of the race. Well, this one was pretty obvious. Brad Keselowski. Even if he didn't mean to, and was trying to do some bump drafting, he caused 2 major accidents, and he also hooked Michael McDowell to the outside wall right there at the finish. I mean, I don't think that was intentional. I think he was just trying to dodge some of the shit that was going on right there with Ryan Blaney going into the wall himself. But, yeah, he basically caused 2 massive accidents. So, there you go. Brad Keselowski rejected the race, and I think that one That was a pretty easy choice. Cat, what are you doing? Quit that shit. God. I don't know what the hell they're doing over there, but it's getting on my damn nerves. Alright, so race results and point standings. Here are your race results for the 2022 Daytona 500. Of course, Austin Cindric with the win, led 21 laps out of the 201 laps because they did go to overtime. Bubba Wallace finishes second in the 500 once again for the second time in 5 years. Of course, Chase Briscoe coming back to finish in the top 3. Ryan Blaney in 4th. Eric Almirola in his final Daytona 500 before he retires comes home with a top 5 minute finish. Kyle Busch still looking for that 500 win, but considering all the shit that he had to go through, comes home in 6th. Michael McDowell, of course, who crashed after the checkered flag, but still brings his car home in 7th. David Reagan in a Rick Ware car. He also crashed heavily after the finish, but ends up 8th. Brad Keselowski led the most laps on the day, but comes home in 9th. And Chase Elliott, who was involved in one of the late wrecks, still comes back to get a top 10 finish. Now, normally when you see, top 10 results, it's like, well, that's how the points are going to look, right? No. Stages they do stages now, and they award points for the top 10 finishers in each stage. So here is your point standings. And of course, the duels from Thursday also award points now as well. So here are the point standings as they stand after the Daytona 500. Austin Cindric obviously is the points leader. Brad Keselowski is in 2nd place in the points. Of course, he won his qualifying duel on Thursday. So he is tied with Cindric for the points lead at the moment. Ain't that the ultimate irony? Austin Cindric, driving the 2 car for Penske, is the points leader, and the guy who left that car to basically, start his own team, become a team owner himself, is tied with his former ride for the points lead. Wrap your head around that shit. Martin Truex Jr. Is third in the points. Didn't have a particularly, I think he finished like 14th or something like that, but he did get the 2 stage wins. So that's 2 playoff points, and that's 20 points as well. Bubba Wallace in 4th. Chase Briscoe 5th, and the rest of the top 10, Ryan Blaney, Michael McDowell, Kyle Busch, Chris Buescher, and Chase Elliott. And then the top 20, as they stand right now, Joey Logano is 11th, Eric Almirola 12th, David Reagan 13th, although he's not racing full-time. And I don't think Cody Ware is either. Or maybe he is, I don't know. But Ty Dillon is 14th in the 42 car, then Ricky Stenhouse and Kurt Busch. And that's your top 16 in the points as they stand right now. And then you have the rest of the top 20, Corey LaJoie, Cody Ware, Daniel Suarez, and Cole Custer. I think Cole Custer really needs to pick it up this year. He's going to be saying bye-bye to that 41 car. And this brings us to the fuel gauge. What did I think of the Daytona 500 as a whole? Well, it was a hell of a lot better than last year's edition of the Daytona 500 because, we had some of the same stuff, although it had a kind of similar feel to the 400 from last August. That second stage was fucking garbage. I'm sorry. When they went the True Train route, and it was basically like that up until the last 5 laps of the stage, that was boring as fuck. I know, I understand the reasoning behind it, but I gotta call it like it is. It was fucking boring. But stage 1 was pretty good. Stage 3, of course, was pretty good. Of course, it had some pretty gnarly wrecks. But we got a great finish at the end, which we did not get last year. So, I don't know what you cats are doing, but stop that, please. But I think overall, this was a very good Daytona 500, and it was a hell of a lot better than it was last year. So, solid number of lead changes, solid number of pure lead changes. Other than the fact that stage 2 was ass and the Fox broadcast was stupid and shit, although that's not really NASCAR's fault. I thought this was a pretty good Daytona 500. So, and we had a surprise winner on top of that, and our 200th different winner in the Cup Series. So, lots of craziness and lots to unpack from this race for sure. But my final rating for the Daytona 500, I'm going to give it an 8 on the fuel gauge. So an 8 out of 10. I thought it was a pretty solid Daytona 500. So 2022 off to a good start, at least from my perspective. But that is going to do it for this edition of the Fuel and Your review of the Daytona 500. Racing season is up and running once again, and so is the Fuel. We're back at it. Next week, the Cup Series heads to the Auto Club Speedway for the first time in 2 years. Haven't been able to go the last couple of seasons because of the pandemic, but they're going to go, and this may be the last time on the big D-shaped oval before they transition it into a short track. Of course, we don't know if that's going to actually happen, but, time will tell. But thank you very much for watching tonight's edition of The Fuel, and until next time, this is the Packer Man signing out. See you later. Thank you for watching tonight's video. Be sure to like and subscribe, you jackweeds!